What we do, as Matt said, is some victim gets to put their website out there, and we rip it apart. Sometimes, and you have to understand, my background, I went to school for computer engineering and computer science with a very heavy emphasis in user interface and user experience design. And so we take that, and don't ask me how I got into real estate, because nobody knows the true story. But there's a story there, and I really was passionate about how things are broken in this industry. I am a realtor. I was a broker for 6 years. I ran the largest independent real estate brokerage in the St. Louis area for 6 years. And what we did is we followed all these concepts and we're closing leads. And so what I'm going to try to do is try to impart that into you of how to make your website better today. A lot of speakers. The one great thing about Xplode is that's not the case here at this conference, but a lot of speakers at different conferences that are out there, you hear a lot of theory, right? How many conferences have you been to where you've been up there, you've heard, well, you know, you can think about social media, or you can think about this, or you can think about that, and Xplode is more like, how do I go home and do this right now? Steven talked about some great things. You can go pick up this camera, you can do X, Y, Z with it. Hopefully tonight, you will go home, and you can either call your web person, you can fix it yourself, or you can call somebody like us to fix it for you. But if you want to, let's go ahead and bring up the victim here, and let's go through this. So I'm, by the way, I don't make any statement that I'm nice. So Matt's asked me to try to be nice, but my problem with this is I'm general. I just do what consumers do. So when a consumer gets to your website, they're not thinking about trying to be nice. They're not thinking about figuring out what your thought process is. They're figuring their thought process. And so that's what happens when they get to a site, and you need to think like that. So let's take Brandon's home. So where's Brandon? Is he in here? Oh, I'm sorry, place. Well, there's an issue right there, maybe, unless you know that. But whose site is this? Raise your hand if this is your site. Oh, sorry, the lights are up. Okay. Let's talk about this. The first thing is red, unless you're calling someone to action to do something on your site, is a mistake. Red is what? Who knows? Angry, stop, bad connotations. Another thing is red can display very differently on different computers, and I just happened to see this right before we came up here on 2 different monitors. And on one screen it came up as red, and on one screen it came up as pink. Maybe you don't want pink on your website, I don't know, but that's something to consider. Red has somewhat of a problem with that displaying on monitors correctly. But in general, don't use red on your website unless you're calling somebody to do something. So what you want to do is, for a button, search for homes or this or that you can use red, but try not to use it around the outside. So again, this is free-flowing information. You have your social media icons up here, right? I'm assuming for sharing this on various different sites. First of all, in many cases, this is a WordPress website, right? By the way, who has a WordPress website? Okay, few. WordPress is a platform for building your website that allows you to make quick and easy changes. It's something called a CMS, you might hear that, or a content management system. And so this is a WordPress website using the standard theme that has been a little bit modified here. But you have the social media icons in the upper right-hand corner. In many cases, people don't know what most of those are. They know Facebook. Many of them know Twitter. Most of the rest of them, they probably don't know. And the worst part about this is, in general, almost all of these plugins that add this functionality feature the links as what's called follow links. Now, I could spend 20 minutes trying to explain to you what follow and no follow links are, but all I'm going to do is say to you, links out to away from your website that are not relative to your website. So, for example, linking to Facebook is not relative to selling real estate, correct? So why link out to Facebook and give them your credit? So anytime you have a website, you have credits, and if you link out to that, you're losing your credit. You're giving up your credit, your Google credit. And so in this case, I'm almost positive this is what's called a follow link, which means you're saying, I'm giving some of my credits over to Facebook. Most people won't even use those links, and so in general I say, don't worry about them. Okay, so Florida's Beautiful Homes, TM Brandon. Okay, why the TM? Do you have an actual registered trademark for the term Florida's Beautiful Homes? Okay, so in that, I would probably say that the TM is, I mean, I understand you want to show that you have that trademark registered, but an average consumer is going to think that, and I'm being honest, I'm being as nice as I can be, but they're going to think, who the heck is this guy that he's got a trademark on some terminology like this? The average consumer doesn't care. Why do you have that there? Probably for every other realtor that's in this room to protect that statement, right? So I would try to make that small because you have to think, where is my consumer thinking? The other thing is a TM symbol in Google creates a very odd character that Google really doesn't understand. And so when they see Florida's Beautiful Homes Brandon, they don't see Florida Beautiful Home Brandon. They see Florida's Beautiful Homes and a whole bunch of gobbledygook, and then Brandon, okay? So I would think about getting rid of that or putting it in a different place on your website. Certainly not the title of your website, which is the absolute #1 most important thing for search engine optimization that's appearing on this page, okay? The other thing that I would think about with that too is I understand you have a trademark on that name, but is it, you said, I didn't even know, Brandon is a city. I'm from, like I said, from St. Louis, and now I live part-time in California. I don't know that, okay? So if I'm moving to your area, I'm assuming what percentage of your community or what percentage of your buyers are outside of the area purchasing vacation rentals or vacation homes? Big percentage or little percentage? Okay, well then maybe it may not make such a difference. Probably if somebody's buying in Brandon, they may know what Brandon is all about, right? But in my case, I didn't. And so that's something to just think about. So you have that. Now you have Florida Living Experts. Now here's where we start to joke around a little bit, but how many of you on your website have hyperbole, like best realtor, #1 realtor? How many have integrity or honesty on their website? Admit it. Somebody does. I guarantee you, somebody in this room. So one of my favorite comedians does a bit about politicians. And he says, you know, I'm driving down the street and I see a billboard that's up there and it says, Frank Jones for mayor, honesty, integrity. Well, I would hope so. I mean, what's going to happen is his opponent going to have a sign that says, Steve Smith, liar, cheat. You know, I mean, seriously, why do we have things like that when it is assumed that we are honest and we have integrity? Why waste the space with it? Because the average consumer is thinking, why are they even telling me this? It makes no sense, okay? In this case, Florida Living Experts, maybe that might be for SEO purposes, but the problem is experts, very few people type in a word like experts. If you look at the number of searches for a term like experts, it's very little. I would much rather you use something like Florida Living Realtor, Florida Living Real Estate, something along those lines. Okay, so one item of noticeably missing that I am very big on, and this comes actually from about 15 years ago when the internet first came out. How many of you have made a purchase online? Right? So a huge percentage. Okay, when you've made a purchase online, how many of you have wanted to contact the person that you are purchasing from? Most of you at some point have purchased something and you said, I want to see if these people are real, unless you're buying from something like Amazon or whatever. And how many people have bought something from eBay, and the only reason they bought something from the person on eBay was because they had a reputation, right? So they want, but if they didn't, they would want to call the person. So if they didn't know you, they want to call you. But the problem is, we've been programmed, knowingly or not, to go to the upper right to try to find out how to contact somebody. So if you can leave here with one thing for this day, I would say, find a way to get a phone number, an email address, and even potentially a live chat button in the upper right-hand corner of your website. And not just on the main page, on every single page of your website. On every site that we build, it's something we will not negotiate in the upper right-hand corner of every website we build for our clients is contact information. Why? Because even though you have the forms, if you have, I see you have diverse solutions, which we'll get to in just a second for your IDX. But even though you have that and they have calls to action built into that system, In general, people want to pick up the phone and call you. And my guess is that even if we go to properties on this page, they're not going to be there. Okay, let's talk about the photo. The person that pulled this up on the back computer right before I came on stage said, quote, "This looks depressing." Okay. Well, I guess it depends on your prerogative with it, but somebody might think lonely, right? And so, again, I'm trying to explain here of the thought process of the consumer is, what does this tell me? What is this in this city? Is this in Brandon? Or is this a stock image? Okay. How many people have stock imagery on their website? Let's all own up to it. Everybody does. Everybody has stock imagery on their website. Let's dump that. Let's make it our goal to dump it. There's a consultant in real estate. He wrote a blog post about this, and I can't agree more. We all have the same picture of the same real estate agent and the same 2 clients on our websites, okay? And I can't tell you how long, when I had my brokerage, how long I had the photo of the agent looking down at the happy couple and how many other realtors' websites that I saw that on. We went and made banners and we made signs and all this stuff, and it had that. And I went to a home show, and guess who shows up next to me is another realtor in the 10-foot booth. And guess what they have on their signage? The exact same realtor. So, of course, what happens? Well, wait, did they work for you, and now do they work for this other company? Seriously, somebody asked that question. So get rid of the stock imagery, please. If anything, elicit emotion. Elicit good emotions. What's great about living in Brandon? Name something. Okay. Why not have a family up there? Okay. Actually, that might be a RESPA or a violation. You wouldn't believe the rules that are out there that I've seen from franchises that say you can't do X, Y, Z. It's shocking, but it'd be something to check into. But I would have maybe something along those lines. Okay? Have something from your area. Why not? Why do we have this picture of a lonely park bench that I'm just going to go sit on and think about how I wish I could afford a home, but I don't know if I can. Also, I was in St. Louis the past 5 weeks, and honestly, I saw that picture, and you know what I thought of? The past 2 weeks, we had cicadas. Do you guys have cicadas down here? So the cicadas were horrible, and I'm thinking, man, if I sit in that thing, I'm going to have about 50 cicadas land on me. But that's it. So think about the emotions that your pictures elicit. Why? Because a picture is truly worth 10,000 words, maybe 50,000 words. A picture sells your website. Okay? It's the first thing somebody sees is that photo right there. Why not sell who you are? Why not sell who your community is? Because people don't care about you necessarily, but they care about the community and where they potentially live. So let's talk about that for just a second, too. How many people have a picture of them on their website? Be honest. Come on, I want to see some hands. Come on. Leave your hand up if your picture takes up more than 25% of your website. Someone in here does. Now, how many of you, that picture that's on your website or on your business cards, how many of your picture is older than 5 years? There's the nervous laughter. There it is. How many is older than 10 years? How many has their high school picture as their photo? Or even better, how many people still have the glamour shot? Some people remember that. So please, can we get rid of these? Here's why. The average consumer could not care less what you look like. How many people have a dog on their website? There's that nervous laughter again. So it's a lot of it's coming from that region over there. Please dump the dogs. Uh-oh, what happened? A screensaver? Okay. Please dump the dogs. I've seen lizards on people's websites. Really? That does not evoke a good emotion. I'm sorry. I don't like lizards. Lizards kind of creep me out, okay? I don't want to see a lizard on your website. I don't want to see your pet iguana. I don't want to see the potbelly pig that you keep at your house. I want to see what I'm interested in coming to your website to see, okay? So in general, when you go to a website, you have about 2 to 3 seconds, and it's even going less than that to engage the person. There's only 3 things that anybody cares about, and I'm going to add a 4th today, but there's only really 3 things that people have cared about in the previous time when they went to a website. Shout them out. Homes for sale. What else? I'll give you a hint. Zillow has the answers to the other 2. What I heard somebody say home worth, or what the value of their home. Okay, and how's the market doing? So those are the three things people care about. Now, if I go to your site, I do see over here we have Mid-Florida MLS search. Okay, so that's good. I will tell you, out of every session I think we've ever done with this, you may be the first person that actually had this search on the main section of their website that I could see without having to scroll, okay, or clicking to another page. If you want to do something that will immediately get you more leads, is to have a search that is impossible to miss on the main section in general, right about where that moss tree is over there. That's where you want your search to be, okay? Kind of upper leftish area. You can have a header at the top, but put it right below the header. Why? Because people read websites in a Z format, okay? If you ever go to a website, watch your eyes, watch what you do, because it's the same thing your consumers are doing. You start in the upper left, you look at the header, you go to the right. Now, what's the first thing they're seeing in the upper right-hand corner? Contact information. So they already know, no matter what other page they get to on your website, they can always go to that safe place and find your contact information in the upper right-hand corner. So now they're going to come down in a Z format. They're going to come down to the left, and that's where we want them to catch them on the homes. So if it was me, I would put a search box in the upper left-hand corner, or right below your header area. I would also make sure to have the call to action for search above the fold. So how many people know what the fold is? Okay. Fold is whatever, above the fold is whatever below, or excuse me, whatever is above without having to scroll on your website. It's a little bit different on every single computer, depending on how people have their browser set or things like that. But in general, I want to see a call to action for how I can search above the fold. Now this is where we come back to the red, okay? Red is really great for calls to action. Why? Because we're stopping people on that button. So if you have a search box that's there, I would have that be my very big, bold colors. We had it in orange when I had my brokerage. It was very bright, impossible to miss, search for homes. I know this isn't a widget because that's what's easy to do, but what you'll find is in general, what's easy to do is generally not the best. It does drop in there, which is great. However, if you can find a way to get somebody to help you figure out how to get that higher on there, or get it to be where it's colorized, etc., that's the way you want to go.
Hey, Eric,
yes?
What's your thought about the size of the image and how much of the above the fold it is?
And this is way too much in general, because in general you only need I'd say about maybe a quarter to a half of that size photo to elicit the emotion that you want to elicit.
And is that on the first slant of the Z, so maybe under contact, or does it matter?
I generally like, so I have, if I could design somebody's site from scratch, I would put a header bar at the top with some kind of a color, my contact information in the upper right-hand corner. Immediately below that, some kind of a search box right below it on the far left, and the photo on the far right. That's kind of what you're really looking for. So the next step is reverse type. Let's talk about his buttons here. So I don't know about you guys, and this is blown up on a giant screen, but I would venture to guess that even the second row might have hard times reading what some of those words are saying, okay? Your consumers are the same way. Even when they're sitting right in front of your screen, reverse text is in general very hard to read. If I had to keep the reverse text, I would bold every single one of those items, okay? Why? Because it's easier to read. If we want to find people or we want to tell them exactly what them to do, go to those bold items. Now, one thing that is not here that I would always add is a search for properties or search homes or find homes or something along those lines to your navigation. Now, I know, my guess is when I go to the next page, that box is on the right-hand side of every single page. Probably, yes, okay. But in general, what you find is that consumers, once they've gotten to an individual page on your website, they stop paying attention to what's over here so much, and they pay attention to what's in your button bar. And so we don't want to lose anybody. Look, you've got a whole extra space right there. Why not add a search for homes menu item, okay? Okay, let's scroll down a little bit. Okay, so we have some videos. Okay, I happen to know the person that creates this widget. It's called the Real Estate Chart of the Day widget for WordPress. And he's a good person. However, one thing that's interesting about widgets, why would anybody build a widget? Why do people offer things like this? Anybody know? Backlinks. Okay. So there are lots and lots of companies out there that offer free widgets. Use them sparingly. Please do not have 900 widgets on your site. And more importantly, check to see how many links are going out from that site somewhere else. If you click that, I believe it takes you to the person who created its website. You don't have to do that, but it's a link, I believe. And that's an outbound link that may not be necessarily a good outbound link. You might lose the traffic from that person. Be careful about the widgets and the links that go out from your website. Just because it's free doesn't mean it's the best thing in the entire world to have on your site. So we do have a phone number here, which is good. Again, I'd rather see it in the upper right-hand corner. But let's scroll down a little bit. So we have you might also like set of boxes here. Is that a plugin that you have that's putting those boxes in there? Okay. So in general, be very careful of any kind of plugins for your website. Again, this is a lot we're talking about is in WordPress as a content management system. But what these do is they can dramatically slow down the load time of your site. Okay. How many of you have been to a website and you've thought, man, it's taken a long time to load? Okay. And how much time do you actually spend there waiting for it to load? Or do you click off and go somewhere else? Google has found that the key time is 1.5 seconds. If it doesn't load in 1.5 seconds, they're actually giving you less credit than somebody whose site that loads in in less than 1.5 seconds. Okay. One thing I noticed that he has on here is he has tags. One big thing that I see a lot of times is people put 900 tags. Somebody's going to be honest in here, hopefully, and raise their hand and say, yes, I thought it helped on SEO, so I put 900 tags on one of my posts or pages. Everyone does it that I see when they first start out there, and it doesn't help. It really does not help at all. Don't try to put 900 tags on there. Really, I like to talk about tags and categories. Does everybody know what tags and categories are when you make a blog post or something like that? Category is supposed to be a pretty broad item. Tag is supposed to be a narrow item. But still, you don't want to have 900 narrow tags. You want to keep your content on your site focused because it's what helped Google know that your site is about finding homes in Brandon. So here, look. So he's done Tampa Realtor. I'm assuming, is it Valrico? Did I say that right? Hey. Okay, so, and what you're doing is you're spreading yourself thin. You're saying, I want to SEO for Brandon, because that's the title of my site. But I'm also trying to you're trying to sneak your way into Tampa, Valrico, and Lithia. And why? Have multiple sites. I know it can be a couple more dollars, but if you really want to go and cover more than one city, try to have more than one site. If not, focus your 100% strength on your website to one area and watch how fast you'll rank higher for that area. It's amazing. When realtors spread themselves thin is when their site starts deranking. We have a client in Costa Mesa, California. The client was number 3 on Google when they started for Costa Mesa real estate. Why? Because they were talking about Huntington Beach, they were talking about Newport Beach, they were talking about all these other areas. We got them to number 1 in 7 days for the term Costa Mesa real estate because we focused them on just Costa Mesa. Okay? They then started blogging again about Huntington Beach. And I said, why are you doing this? You just dropped to number 4 because you started doing this. We got them to stop doing that, and they're back to number 1 again, and now they're having other sites that are in these areas, and they're starting to rank for those other pages. Why? Because you're focusing all your SEO on one particular term. Okay, why the tiger? What does tiger have to do with real estate, other than he probably owns expensive real estate in Florida? Okay, in your area? But, see, we're spreading ourselves thin. And, in general, I understand it's an attraction. However, you just told me very few people come from out of the area to buy a home in your area, right? Most of them know about Brandon, correct? Why then are you talking about big cats real estate? Or big cats? Why not talk about real estate? Okay, you're spreading yourself thin again. Now Google is saying, site's about real estate or tigers or who knows what. It doesn't know, okay? But again, you have to think like Google. You have to think like your consumers. And so I see this, and it might get people to click on it. But in terms of really connecting with your consumers, I call this shiny object syndrome, okay? Look at the squirrel. It's on your website. Oh, look at the dancing squirrel. Da, 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 da. And now you know what they're not doing? They're not paying attention to real estate anymore, okay? How many of you have a scrolling slider on your site that shows property photos? Okay, so a few people are raising their hands. I used to see this all the time. It's not good. We did this as an example in Destin a few weeks back. And when we did it, it could not have been a more perfect example. The person's website came up, and I said, don't do this. There it was right there. And I said, here's why you don't want to do this. I said, watch what will happen. You'll go from a $300,000 house to a $150,000 house. And I kid you not, it was a $425,000 house that went to a $185,000 house. The same buyer has no interest in $400,000 as has an interest in $185,000. Why are you doing this? I know why, because you're trying to appease your sellers. But stop trying to appease your sellers. I mean, you still want to do things that connect with them, but why waste space when you're supposed to be connecting with your buyers and other potential people that are interested on the main page of your site? People don't care about your listings. Potential clients that you haven't connected with don't care about your listings. What do they care about? They want to search everything, right? So why do we have that? So we've got the little map down here. In general, this gets very low clicks. And my guess is are these your listings that you have mapped on this little box? Okay. People don't understand this. They won't click on it. Look, you've got 900 little dots in the same little spot. Okay? People don't know what to do. They get confused. Dump it, in my opinion. Let's scroll down just a little bit. Oh, we have another one. So again, dump that. Look, I actually like sign up for email alerts. I'm assuming that's subscribing to get, when you post a new blog, it sends you an email with that, right? But why? Why is it buried down here at the bottom? So if you want to connect with people, put your calls to action where everybody can see that, not where I have to scroll down half the page to get that. How am I doing on time, by the way? Oh, I am? Okay. Sorry, I didn't see a sign or anything like that. Okay, real quick. So we've talked about quite a few things. I know I'm standing in front of lunch. Hopefully we'll have some time later on to do this. Matt, are we going to collect cards on one of these bowls up here? So if you want to have your site talked about and you're not squeamish, come put your card in.
For the shredder?
Yes.
Give your card to Eric if you
Okay.
want him to evaluate your site, not in the bowl.
I will walk to the back of the room. If you want us to do it, what we did that worked a couple weeks ago is we took a bunch of them and we did about a minute or two on each one of them. So if you want to do it, we'll try to be as nice as possible. But if we don't have time for it, something else you can do is you can go to tribusgroup.com/shredder. That's tribusgroup.com/shredder. And if you're too squeamish about doing it on stage, you can submit it on there, and we'll give you a private.
And that's in your slide deck, right? The link and all of
Yes.
that? Okay, thanks, Matt.